Hi, and welcome to today's webinar. It's really great that you're here to joining me for this. I'm really excited about this webinar. So, it's great that so many people are wanting to think about increasing their ability to innovate, and that's in their personal lives and in their professional lives as well. Now, I'm Debbie Clement-Large, and my business is called Why Follow the Herd. And just to let you know, as everybody joins, that you're all in listen-only mode. But if you've got any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box, and I'll do my best throughout the webinar to answer your questions. Now, we've got people joining from all over the world today, so it's really great to have so many people giving up some of their time to find out how they can innovate or gain the ability to innovate in their lives. So say hello in the chat box. It'd be really nice to hear from you. Now, research has shown that planning and thinking about creativity, is so very important to us. And that's just lost my train of thought for a second. Yes, that working creatively actually gets you so many more better results than actually working competitively. And we're going to be looking around about 30 minutes. You might overrun very slightly. We'll take you through the process of building those foundations to working creatively and to allowing creative thought into your personal and into your business life as well. So I've got some slides to help you through that process. So I'll just set them up now for you. Okay. So, do you know, it doesn't matter at all whether you think that you're a creative person, because we're all born creative. Now, a baby will have fun playing with creative sounds as they start to learn language. And when they will start to use their feet and their toes as playthings as they start exploring and knowing our bodies. So, that's a very innate thing in us to be creative. Now, if a baby has access to creative thinking, that must mean that as we go through childhood and then into adulthood, we learn somehow not to be creative, or our creativity gets squashed. We can hear things like that you're not creative, or that creativity is a waste of time. Creative thinkers have their heads in the clouds. Creativity doesn't pay, whatever. And when we talk about creativity, we don't just think about the creative industries. Okay, we're talking about lateral thinking, using our minds to generate different ideas, to be able to be open and receptive to new ways of thinking, to be able to associate things with something else, to create a new idea. Now, in this webinar, we're looking at the real foundations in place. And then next month, we're going to be having a look at how we build on that and how we generate ideas with other people, and understanding a bit more about the types of creative person. Now, we all have beliefs that aren't positive for us. And when we have beliefs like you're not creative, or, don't be creative, or creativity doesn't pay, all those sorts of things, they form part of what we believe about the world and believe about what we can do. But, creativity is really important because it's how we innovate. Now, just a quick bit on there. There we go. There's me. I work with people to help them understand that creative thinking, lateral thinking, expanding their minds to new opportunities and innovations is really important, and it's really key. I work with one-to-one with individuals who want to make changes in their life, that feel stuck in their life, and I work with businesses as well. It's part of transformation programs, just in terms of presentations, how they understand their audience, how they sell their ideas, using storytelling, all those sorts of things. They're really key things that we need in our businesses. So going back to our access to creative inspiration, that's really important, because that's the way we innovate. And we generate new ways of thinking and doing things by opening and expanding the way we think, using our lateral thinking. Now, Einstein said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So when we want something different, when we want to innovate something, have a good idea about something, or when we want to create a change in our lives, we have to be prepared to think differently. And we need to find new ways of doing things. And that's really important because people automatically think things about, to be an innovator, you need to be thinking out of the box. And that's not necessarily the truth, you know. As an innovator, you can think out of the box. You can think up great new ideas. But what about the box? Can we not just adapt the box? Can we not just change the box? So we have different types of people who create. We have adapters at one end, and we have innovators at the other, and then we're completely along that sort of arc between the two. So ability to think of great ideas is within us all. And what sets us apart from the herd is being able to generate and feel inspired by our new ideas and our innovations, and to keep having fresh ideas about new ways of doing things. So in our personal lives, we can use it to overcome obstacles in life. You know, we can all become addicted to dramas. We could become addicted to the chemicals that get released in certain situations, histamine and different things. And we can keep attracting those same problems over and over. So creative or lateral thinking is a great way to release ourselves from the problem by finding a new solution. And in businesses, we can do that as well by looking at generating new ideas, new ways of having our product or service out there, new ways of working, new processes. So it's really great for all types of situations, really, because when we think about it, at some point, the winds of change hit us. And there's only two things we can say with certainty in life, is that one day that it will end, and at some point we will be hit by the winds of change. Now, that's not meant to be a negative statement in any way, because we can flip it and make it really positive by saying that if we let things be and know that nothing is permanent, we can have a refreshing way of looking at life. And we'll talk about controlling and predicting a little bit in a minute, because I can have a tendency to try to do that. And I know I'm not alone with that. And what we want really in our lives is to find a peace in the world, in our portion of the world, you know, and what's in our world. And when I say that, you know, I don't mean the world as a whole, but our own personal world. And when we feel we have the ability to listen to our instinct or our gut feeling, you know, we can access our innate creativity, because we all have the resources within us to deal with any situation and to resolve any problem. So living creatively or with creative thinking or lateral thought is really, really powerful. And that increases our ability to innovate. So in today's webinar, we're going to be having a look at, we're going to be focusing on using our innate creativity to help us to innovate and create new ideas. So we're going to look at, firstly, so this webinar is building the foundations in what we need. So we're going to be looking at how we innovate and how the brain works and how we can build new neural pathways by just changing our thinking. Because it's really interesting that once upon a time, people thought that once we reached a certain age in life, that our brain didn't really change after that. So whatever our thoughts were set in, that's kind of the way we thought for the rest of our lives. But we know from research that that's not the case, and that we can change and we can build new neural pathways in our brains just by changing our thinking. And that flexibility in our thinking is really, really key. So we'll look at that. And then we're going to have a look at the 5-step foundations that are a really important building block upon which we need to be able to generate ideas. And we're going to carry on and we're going to expand that in my next webinar by taking everything further and building on those foundations and looking at how we innovate with other people. So if we start out by looking about how we receive inspired ideas, and there are different trains of thought on this. Now, our brains are made up of two sides. Now, they're not split down the middle, as in that picture, but that just gives a representation. We have creative elements in our brain, and we have logical elements, and they're not completely split down the middle like that at all. But we use the creative portions of our brain to generate ideas, and then we use the logical parts of our brain to put those ideas into action. Now, the interesting thing is that there's been work done by scientists, and they've proved that thoughts are energy. And when we know once energy cannot be destroyed, so once it's around, it's around. So science has proven that once a thought is thought, it kind of remains in the ether, floating around for anyone else to pick up on. And I just find that kind of quite an amazing concept. And it's fascinating to think that the thoughts of maybe great inventors and great creators in the past that have lived, Edison, Einstein, whoever, is just remaining floating out there, different thoughts. Now, some people say that when we received an inspired thought, that we're actually becoming in tune with the energy of those thoughts around us. And there's other, of course, we can't just, sometimes we get a fully formed thought in our minds, which is great. And sometimes we just get the little tiny seed of a thought, which we have to build on. But it's all about putting things into practice. We can't just sit there waiting for something fully formed idea to plop in our heads, because it doesn't always work like that. So it's about listening and trying to be mindful and being, engaged with what's going around, but also practicing and building and putting ideas and being open and receptive to things. So in order to live a more creative and inspired way of living and working, or creative thought, we need to change the critical and often negative thoughts and beliefs we have within our own mind. And to become more creative, we need to have great ideas, but we need to believe that we're capable of generating them, because we are. Now, a lot of us have the long-term belief that we can't do something. Now, I've got a member of my family that's like that. If you mention doing something, the first response is, I can't do that. But they've never tried it, so how do they know they can't do it? So we've got to be open. And like Henry Ford said, and this is a really famous quote, but I do like it because it's whenever you think you can, whether you think you can't, either way, you're right. And it does come back to that. Be open to trying new things. Don't close ourselves off to being open, receptive and trying new things. Because, if we don't try, we don't know. And the other thing we need to think about is being flexible. Now, this has been difficult for me in the past because I can have a tendency to predict and control, especially when I've worked for different organizations, really big organizations, and they can go through lots of restructures, lots of change, and I can have a tendency to try and predict and control that, but it's outside of my control. And all it does, it just leaves you end up feeling fearful, stressed and anxious, which is no good to any of us. So, I've tried, I know that I can't take control of situations like that because I've tried doing it. And then you can generate fearful thoughts about what's going to happen. Oh my God, if I lose my job, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And, you can just end up with these massive amount of scenarios. Well, in reality, you might go through the restructuring, you might get a job. And all those things that you've been worrying about, the whole 10 things which just seem massive and big, might not actually come to anything at all. So when we get a fearful thought, our body creates hormones and chemicals to respond to that flight or fight feeling that we get within us. And when those feelings aren't used up by running or fighting, they just turn into stress. So the key is to try to be flexible in our thinking, to release the need to control and predict. And I sort of did that by using affirmations. I do meditation. I take myself out for a walk. And the one great thing is I've got a young dog. And, I work long days. And in the evening, I'll take him out for this wonderful walk. And we've got some nice fields and woods around where I live. And that is just such a great way just to release and let go of all the things that have been going on and allow some flexibility into my thinking. Yeah, just let go of that controlling and predicting bit within me. And I find that really, really useful because we do all need to let go of our need to control. And those were the most success and the most peaceful living and working people are those who retain the flexibility in their mindset. Now, they're willing to look at the world with curiosity and see opportunities that are there rather than being fixed in their focus. So it's always good to have a goal, and it's always great to be heading towards somewhere, but don't put the blinkers on. Don't just walk down a tunnel towards it and that's all you're focused on, because there could be bigger and better opportunities along the sidelines that you're completely walking past because you're not seeing them. So when you're open to new opportunities and have that childlike curiosity and that flexibility in thinking, then you're more likely to pick up on those opportunities as they go past you. But whatever's happened in your life, don't be hard on yourself. You know, it doesn't matter what's happened yesterday or what happened 10 years ago or 20 years ago. You know, you cannot change any of that. And we don't know for certain what's going to happen tomorrow. You know, we can't predict exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. We can hope we might know what's going to happen tomorrow. The only thing we can do is change now. We can only change where we are and what's happening right at this moment. So that leads to the 5-step process for generating more ideas. Now, these are my foundation steps. These are the really some of the key things to think about and need in place in order to be able to get yourself into a place for really generating ideas. Now, you've got to remember that this journey, you know, lateral thinking, creative thinking, being able to generate new ideas isn't a destination, but it's a journey towards flexing your mind and getting yourself in the best possible place to receive and generate inspired ideas. So our first step is to step through fear. Now, fear is the biggest thing that holds people back from being creative. When I say creative, I don't mean creative industries, just creative thought. And we can have fears like, you know, we're not talented enough, that, you know, our thoughts going to be, our ideas going to be ridiculed, you know, we're going to be ignored, that others can do it better than us, that we won't be taken seriously, that our ideas are silly. We can fear that we'll be exposed as a fool. We can be afraid of opening our vulnerable side to others, that maybe we're at a certain age in our lives and we can worry that our best work is behind us. We can be afraid that nothing ever goes right, so why should we bother? You know, there are just so many fears that we could latch on to. But these are just our ego talking, and our ego is based in fear. And we can be afraid about how our ideas can be seen and received by others. And this can hold us back. And it's a really big reason why a lot of people say that they're not creative. But as I said, we're all born creative. And, you know, we can lose or get that squashed within us during our childhood. And I heard a story of somebody who said they weren't creative. When they thought right back, it sort of started at a period where they were in an art class in school and they drew a tree, and the teacher told them that they weren't any good because that wasn't the right sort of tree. And from then on, they thought they weren't creative or didn't have any creative ability, which is ridiculous. So we do have a tendency to hide our creativity because either what other people have said, or because of our fears of how our ideas will be received. But it's good to know that everybody feels that fear to one degree or another. And what we need to do is to work through that fear. You know, get some belief behind our abilities, get some belief that actually we can create, because we can. And the next step is to allow some headspace. Now, this seems really, really simple, but it is so, so good, and it works really well. So say we're working for a company, or we've got our own business, and we need to come up with a new idea or product from either, you know, or we need to improve our service. And we might feel really, really under pressure for coming up with a good suggestion. You know, we might give ourselves half a day and we've suddenly got to have something that's wonderful, and the world is going to go, wow, look at that. We've always been waiting for that. And that's a lot of pressure to put on ourselves, or have put upon us. And we can do the same in a personal situation as well. You know, it's easy to put pressure on ourselves to find a way out of something. You know, maybe we don't we feel stuck in a relationship, or we feel stuck in a job, and we put pressure on ourselves to come up with a creative solution to getting ourselves out of that. And the problem happens is that when we don't give ourselves some headspace to allow our brains just to work and our subconscious to work, to allow a solution to enter. Now, what I mean by headspace is time away from the problem. So say you're working and you're trying to come up with a new business process or a new product idea or something. So you might gather the facts, you might gather the facts and figures surrounding it, you might gather lots of research or notes, or, you know, all sorts of things, just to an eliciting information stage. And the best thing then to do is to walk away, do something different, even just for a short space of time. You know, if you're able to, take yourself for a walk in nature, walk through a park, go through the woods, go for a coffee somewhere, do another task, but just take your conscious mind away from that subject. Let it just mull over in the background, and then suddenly you'll have a few ideas. My best ideas come, one, when I'm flow writing, and two, when I'm out walking my dog. It's just that sort of looking around, you know, not really having a head full of clutter, but just suddenly think, oh, actually, that would be a really good idea. Oh, I could do that course. And actually, I could contact that person. And how about I write that report or write that email? And that's just allowing yourself some headspace, just gives yourself some time. So it's really, really crucial. Now, step 3 is opportunities. So when you allow some headspace into your life, you're more likely to see opportunities where you wouldn't see them before. And we talked about that blinkered thing towards walking towards our goals. And this kind of works for that as well, because we have such busy lives. You know, our work diaries are chock-a-block, you know, from the minute you get in almost to the minute you leave. You can be in meetings or doing this, that, and this task. You know, we can be so busy, and lots of businesses are restructuring. They're expecting the same amount of work to be done, but with less people. So, you know, we've got busy work lives. We can have busy personal lives as well. You know, especially if you've got kids, you can be ferrying them around places. You know, we can try and fit in lots of social things and other things that we want to do in the little bit of space we might get at the end of the day or weekends. And that just puts a lot of pressure on us to come up and with new ideas and new concepts. So if, you know, I've walked down the street before, you know, my head's been full of stuff and I've been thinking about something I've been wanting to work on, and, you know, completely in my own world. And then the next day I've bumped into somebody and they said, I saw you yesterday, I shouted out to you. And I think, well, I didn't hear you. And that's the problem. You know, we're so contained with the clutter and things that are going on in our heads, we can miss. So I miss the opportunity of having a chat with somebody that maybe I don't see, you know, I might not have seen very often. And that's what happens. So actually, we need to get ourselves into a place where we're more in tune to receiving the opportunities and allow some headspace into our lives. It's a bit like having an internal radio and actually allowing yourself to turn that down on occasion. So, you know, that's really important to be able to receive ideas. My step 4 is stress. Now, stress is a really great killer of creative ideas. And we can try to control a situation we have no control over. You know, we talked about fear, and fear results in stress. And we can come up with all sorts of scenarios that don't materialize and can keep you in the same spot. You know, our fear will hold us back, and it's trying to protect us, our ego, but it can become very overbearing and too protective. Now, we do need a warning system to keep us safe, but our ego is built up over time of beliefs that no longer serve us. So as a child, we were told, you know, don't talk to strangers. Really important, don't go out, don't talk to strangers. But that doesn't serve us well as an adult. If I didn't go out and talk to strangers, like at a networking event or in a business, I wouldn't make connections and I wouldn't make new business. So things that we've learned in some parts of our life don't serve us well going forward. And limitations can hold us back. So being stressed kills creativity and inspiration because you feel stuck and indecisive. So really, I'd suggest, if you can, try to think about overcoming stress with meditation, relaxation, and using positive affirmations is a really great way. Now, the step 5 is environment. Now, the environment in which we want to generate new ideas can have a big impact upon the ideas we can come up with. So if you're wanting to come up with an idea in a work situation, and you're gathering with colleagues in a small, drab, windowless office, it can be difficult to become creative in that space. You know, many offices aren't designed to encourage creativity and aren't really a great setting for creative thinking. You know, and our environment can play a big part in helping or hindering the generation of ideas. And that goes for personal problems too. So if you're feeling stuck or worried about the environment in which you live, it could be difficult to come up with new ideas while you're still in that environment. Maybe you need to take yourself out. So if you can, find a venue that inspires you. You know, if you have the opportunity, take a walk in nature, hold a meeting in a park, hold a meeting in a pub if you're allowed. And I know there's lots of constraints over lots of workplaces where they talk about bums on seats as being the main thing rather than the output that you're generating. But if you can, you know, if we can become more flexible as business owners or as, you know, employees putting the ideas forward, that we can create situations where we can innovate and look at better ways of doing things in a different situation, then that's a really good thing for us, not only as individuals, but good for our businesses as well. You know, and sometimes the physical act of walking allows our minds to have more opportunities to think. So that's why, for me, if I want to come up with great ideas, I'll take myself out for a walk, and I can walk mindfully. And that's really great. And mindfully is just trying to focus on what's around me, focusing on my feet as I'm walking, just trying to, you know, whenever thoughts bubble into my head, just sort of thinking, you know, that's interesting, and then maybe letting it go, but not just trying to allow lots of clutter to fill in. So when I do facilitation, and I do a lot of that for big businesses right down to all sorts of size businesses, and I go in and I'll stick pictures on the walls, something that relates to the topic or the problem that they've got, and I'll stick up quotes and inspirations just to try and get those creative juices. I'll even take toys in, or take things from nature, cones and all different things in to help generate ideas. And there's great tools and things that you can use for that, and we'll talk about that more in the next webinar. Because, you know, and the other thing that's really great is chocolate. You know, chocolate bribes, you know, for people who come up with the best ideas, things like that. And I have ground rules, and they're really, really important. And when I'm just trying to generate ideas, what they call divergent thinking, so it's about looking about how many ideas and what can you come up with. The first rule is no criticizing of ideas, and that's really important. And the second really, really important thing is no evaluation of ideas, because there is nothing quicker at stifling creativity than having a great idea and somebody either criticizing it or evaluating it out of the options. Because then what do? You just think, oh, well, I won't come up with any ideas. You know, that squashes brings up your fear, you know, your stress of making a good idea. But when you just think you're making ideas, they can be silly, they can be off the wall, it really doesn't matter. It's just generating ideas, because from within those sort of ideas, we can evaluate them at a later stage to see and start digging down to see whether there's any real valuable seeds within them that can grow into a great product or service. So really, the initial environment is just somewhere to generate lots and lots of ideas. So when you're focusing your efforts on generating ideas, it comes down to two things. The first is practice. You know, we may all be born creative, but things don't happen just because of talent. You know, Tiger Woods, maybe people thought, well, he was just born with a talent for playing golf. But actually it was the amount of practice he put into it. And that's the same with anything. And we all have the ability to improve when we practice and focus on our efforts. And that developing our creative or lateral thinking is no different. And the other thing is really, really to maintain your sense of curiosity. Try to look at the world through childlike eyes. See things in you. Don't berate yourself for silly or initial ideas, because all ideas are great to start with. And just make as many as you can. You can find your creativity. You just need to believe you can do it and that it's possible for you to do it. And then just learn some great tools and techniques for doing it, because I believe you can do it. We all can. So I did say that we had the possibility of overrunning very, very slightly because I had lots of stuff to get through. But is this the end of the line? Well, developing our creative thinking doesn't need to end here. Actually, this is just the beginning of our discovery. So, you know, you can be part of my membership program, which would be great, because nurturing our creativity is really, really important. And it is if you want to achieve some amazing results in your life. Now, as an individual, we want to have the confidence to achieve our goals, to grow our personal story and to make the best of it, and to create ideas and ways around life's obstacles. As an entrepreneurial professional, we'll want to create a culture of creativity in your organization in order to generate new ideas and innovations. Now, this is a monthly program and it's risk-free for 30 days. If you're not happy in 30 days, then you can just ask for your money back and that's fine. There's lots of bonuses in there. You know, I'm going to be starting a new 12-week The Power of Creative Thinking program shortly. And, you know, that's going to be part of that membership. You can buy it separately as well. But there's real health benefits to having creativity as part of your life. You know, there's so many things that will have an impact on. You know, it helps us overcome obstacles, helps us to feel calmer and more grounded and deal with life's challenges, helps us to achieve our goals and our dreams, makes us happier, and actually makes us healthier as well. You know, it decreases stress hormones and it can lower our blood pressure. So at our next webinar, we're going to be having a look at creating and innovating. We're going to take the journey further. So once we've got the fundamentals in place, we'll be taking that further and looking at our mindset, looking at some of the tools that we can use that we're dealing with people. So we're going to have, you know, we deal with people that are resistant to change, resistant to creating ideas. You know, that could be to do with their fear of change. And then we're going to be having a look at techniques to help you eliminate some of the problems we can encounter when we're trying to generate ideas. So if you're not on my mailing list at all, make sure you sign up from my website, because then you'll hear about my webinars. You can ask questions, you can be part of that. And I'd like to thank you for being part of that today. So it's been really having you as part of the journey. I hope you found the information helpful towards your journey in increasing your ability to innovate and idea generate. So you can contact me on email, debbie@whyfollowtheherd.com, Twitter @whyfollowherd, Facebook, Why Follow the Herd or Creative Academy. And I'd like to wish you the best, really, with your journey. And, you know, if you're not already, as I said, not already on my mailing list, then catch up with me. And I hope to see you the next time at the next webinar, because we're going to be taking this further and having some more tools and things that you can really use and put in practice with other people. So it'd be great. So anyway, I hope to see you soon, and it's nice to see you now. So take care, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.